We go.
Greetings, everyone. This is Dr. Ray Lindley from Array Global Accreditation. It's great to be with you all again at the start of another wonderful school year. I hope that whatever time it is there, afternoon or evening or whatever, that you've been having good days. So welcome, everybody. And Dr. Jake Francom, who's now the Executive Director of uh, Array Global, will give us a few announcements.
Welcome, everyone. We hope that you've had a rejuvenating summer and ready to get back into another great school year where you can have an impact on so many lives across your schools, across your communities, across your country, and across the world. And we're excited about this presentation by Dr. Bob Sanchez and just helping us get realigned and refocused as we get our minds back set in the classrooms. A few things just before we turn the time over to Dr. Bob. There's always questions about how the workshop operates. If you have questions or if you would like to make a comment, we encourage you to do that through the chat. And we may be able to get to a lot of the questions. We will also have some time at the end of the workshop. We will have some time for a question as you were filling out the survey at the end of the workshop. Now, the survey is an important part of this workshop. This ensures that you get your certificate. We will be sending out certificates to everyone who is here. So please make sure that you stay till the end. That happens after an hour where Dr. Ray gives his words of wisdom, and we will post and announce on the video and in the chat that the survey is posted, and we need everyone to fill that out in completion. We encourage you to take notes. We encourage you to write some reflective ideas on how you can use the items that Dr. Bob talks about to incorporate into your classroom to be the most effective educator and teacher that you can be. And while you fill out that survey, we do request you to put down 3 different items that you have learned that you can implement immediately into the classroom. And that's how we can monitor to ensure that you have paid attention, you're here, you're focused, and this is going to be beneficial for you. Also, we just want to make sure that you're aware that we have services that we provide. We travel all around regularly supporting schools, not just in accreditation, but in providing workshops and professional development. So please get onto our website at arrayglobal.org. Look at our accreditation process if your school is not already part of that accreditation process. And talk to your school leadership if you're a teacher and you're not the decision maker, but make sure that people are aware of it. Also, we have an academic contest that is opening up here soon. We have one academic contest this year. We took the one that is the most popular one, and we are going to open it up for a little bit longer this year and focus on that one contest. And this is a science symposium. And so instead of a science fair where students have to test out a theory, this is where they are presenting a science concept to help them better understand a different part of science. Science is important. I was a science teacher, and I really appreciate the students and the activities that they've been able to provide. So I encourage you to get onto our website, look at our academic competitions, and get your students involved. This is a great way for them to be recognized across the world in an international competition. There's no cost, and they all receive certificates, and there are cash prizes for those students that do win. So again, I'll put that in the chat. And as I turn the time back over to Dr. Ray, please make sure if you have a question or a comment, please put it to the chat. If you have a question or comment to us about Array Global accreditation in general, please send us an email, and you can contact us directly on our website. So with that, Dr. Ray, I'll turn it back to you. It's great to see so many people here.
And it's great to see you all again. And as both Dr. Jake and I have said, we're hoping the best for you for a wonderful year. We're really excited to have Dr. Bob Sanchez as our presenter today. Dr. Bob has a very, very enriching background. He was in the United States Army for I think almost 24 years, if I remember right. And when he retired as a lieutenant colonel in the Army, not very far from being a general, but he retired, and he was well appreciated. In fact, I've followed him somewhat over the years. He also was an Army, which, if you know anything about the U.S. Army, it's one of the most difficult jobs that you can have. I think he parachuted into several countries during the war. So it's good to have Dr. Bob with us. He has his PhD in student retention and persistence. So he has a lot of information about holding on to students and keeping them. So, Dr. Bob, it's great to have you with us, and the time is yours.
And Bob, I hope you're not muted, because we can't hear you.
Okay, yeah, I think we're all
There
set
we
up.
go.
Thank you. Thanks for your
Yeah.
patience. I really want to say thank you to Dr. Lindley for that warm introduction and kind words, and to Dr. Frankham for putting this workshop series together, throughout the entire school year. This being the very first workshop for Array Global Education this new year, it's a reminder that the start of a new school year may look different depending on the school that we serve, the role that we perform, the organization that we're a part of, or maybe even the calendar we use, whether it's a term, a semester, a cohort. Uh, my hope is that wherever we find ourselves in the start of this new year, that we embrace this incredible and important opportunity we have today, and that's to think intentionally about how people experience the work that we do every day. The title of this workshop, Kicking Off the New School Year with Clarity, Care, and Purpose, um, really gives us three simple ideas to keep in view during the entire time that we're together. First, with clarity, it's how we embrace clarity has a pathway toward helping ourselves and others, understand what is expected, what might be expected in the classroom or outside of the classroom. Uh, and then second, with care and how we put care at the front and center when we think about how do we make others uh, uh, that are a part of our organization, or maybe the communities that we're in, how do we make others feel valued and supported? And then the third one is purpose. And that is how we find a common purpose through all those things that compose our school culture, our values, our beliefs, our behaviors, the language that we speak with each other, in a way that helps us to see why the work that we do really matters. Um, my belief is that when these experiences happen repeatedly, they shape what people come to trust and expect, and that becomes an important part of our school culture on any given day. Today, we'll use something called reflective practice to look more intentionally at work that's already being performed in your schools, and to learn from one another as we do. But before we begin, I really want to take an opportunity to just shine the spotlight on all those that are joining us from really throughout the globe. And so as I advance here to the next slide, I'm going to ask, there we go. I'm going to ask all of us to just take a minute and look at the prompts. And if you can in the chat, just list down in there, where you're joining us from, the role that you serve, the many hats maybe that you wear, and what, if you can narrow it down. If you can't, that's okay too. What is that one focus that you have on your mind right now, or what's that one priority, or what's that one um, uh, thing that you're most excited about with this new school year ahead? And if you can just put all of that in that chat, so it might look something like uh, Nairobi, uh, school teacher, um, family engagement, something like that. So I'll give folks an opportunity to take the time to put in the chat a little bit about themselves. And let's just kind of sit back and notice, how diverse this group is today, and really get to appreciate the depth and level of experience that everyone's bringing to our workshop. Okay, I see someone from Oman. Welcome. I think I saw we had 34 other people. So Saudi Arabia, welcome.
We do. I
Don't
see
be
some
shy.
from a lot of different countries on there. I recognize some of the names. Egypt.
Egypt.
Kurdistan. All right.
Yeah. Erbil, I saw.
Love
Excellent.
that. Jamaica. That's right. We have our Jamaica school here. That's exciting too. We're going to be visiting there soon.
Yeah, and Dr. Bob, I think you're going to Jamaica, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be there in about a week and a half. Be working with an excellent organization there, a medical school, doing incredible work.
Yeah. A lot from Saudi Arabia.
Give everyone just another minute to
Yeah.
uh, let us know where they're joining from and a little bit about themselves. Well, it's really neat to see, folks really literally from all throughout the world, joining us for this 1 hour today. So I really, again, really do appreciate you taking the time to be with us. The second part of this, I think that is equally, if not more important, is the knowledge and experience that you bring, to the conversation today. We invite you to feel free to share your thoughts and ideas and best practices, participate in not just the exercises, but in the question and discussion that we reserved for the last part of the presentation. But certainly, where you have questions, feel free through the chat, to let us know what those might be, or any comments that you have. Um, we're going to talk a little bit now about how we're going to spend this next hour together, and we want to keep our time together practical by focusing on three things, really. And the first one is gaining a shared understanding of reflected practice, to appreciate, what reflective practice is, a common definition, if you will, uh, its value to the diverse work that we do, and then, a little bit about the history of where it's been and, where it is today. And then, but then, rather than just talking about it, we're going to actually use it. And each of us will choose just one routine or practice that's already part of our work, something familiar enough, that we can picture it clearly. And then we'll stay with that same example as we move through the reflection. So by the end of our time together, we will have simply looked at a routine. It could be an engagement. It could be a series of meetings, something useful, and take a deep dive in that through a reflective process. So at the end of our time together, we can walk away with several insights, maybe questions, affirmations, or intentions that we can carry throughout the new year. To help us with this process, though, we provided a reflection guide. And this guide gives us a place, where you can capture notes and thoughts and questions and ideas as we move through the workshop. So it also, when you open that up, you'll see that it includes several prompts, and you can follow that as we go in the workshop. It's not intended just for this workshop. It's a tool for you to take with you throughout the entire year and your journey as an educator or school administrator. Our hope is that you'll find it as a useful resource that you can revisit, at any time, and use it as the tool that it's designed for, and that's to help us gain clarity around the experiences that we shape and the experiences that we have in the classroom and outside the classroom, and for us to think critically about perhaps what is worth exploring more intentionally. So with that, I'll give you an opportunity to go ahead and open that link. You can save it, or you can keep it open. No need to begin working in it yet. I'll let you know when you need to have that ready to use. So I'm going to pause here just for a second, make sure everyone has an opportunity to open that link and get access to the reflection guide.
Yeah, it's posted there, Bob, and a lot of people are already in there looking at it. I can see. So this is really good, and it's very well put together. It's long, but I think that's important to get in and understand this entire process.
Okay. So our first question that we are going to explore today really is around reflective practice. And we begin, our exploration, if you will, on understanding what that means. For most of us, I think that have been through a reflective process, a reflective practice process, we may immediately recognize the components of it, but perhaps it, has been labeled, with a different name. But for today, we're going to use the term reflective practice and lean forward, if you will, with a simple definition, and that it's intentional learning from our own professional experience. Most of us already reflect naturally as we work, whether we recognize it or not. We notice something. We notice things. We think through those things. We think through the important parts of our day, whether we're talking with someone, whether we're considering an upcoming decision, or maybe reconsidering a decision that we made, or thinking about the lessons that are in the classroom that might need to be adjusted. The important takeaway here is that reflective practice doesn't replace that natural thinking. It gives us, it gives that thinking, that natural thinking, focused attention so that we can learn from it. Sometimes reflection, that process will confirm something that we've already felt strongly about, or sometimes it might help us understand something more fully, or maybe it leaves us with a better understanding that we didn't quite have. We don't need to identify a problem that we're trying to solve here. What we're really doing is we're going to ask ourselves, what is that experience that immediately comes to mind that's worth examining? Just think about that for a second as I continue to set the stage before we dive in. There we go. This idea of reflective practice really is not a new idea. It has deep roots in education. Going back to the early 20th century, Dewey gave us this foundation, in that in this idea to think about that experience can become a source of learning when we examine it thoughtfully. And then, a few decades later, another thought leader on reflective practice, Douglas Scone, brought this idea directly into professional practice. And his approach that he asked us to think about was think about reflection in action. And that is reflecting as you're preparing, as you're doing, and then, afterwards, through that whole series, as events are unfolding, to think about, to integrate a reflection process. So that's the reflection in action. And then there's the reflection on action, which is looking backward, after, we've had a meeting, after maybe it's been family engagement, maybe it's been meeting with a colleague, whatever that event is, then to look back and to think through it in a reflective way. So we've recognized this process in education for quite some time. We've adjusted it, as the years have gone by. And today I think the reflective practice sets the conditions for all of us to bring into that process unique perspectives. Our perspective, the perspective of others, the dialogue that we observe and we listen to. Any other evidence that's going to be important in our reflection, and then our own professional judgment. And that common thread throughout all those, columns is simple. It's that experience becomes more useful uh, when we examine it intentionally. So let's get ready to make that, practical with a simple process that we can use today. And that process, when we think about simplicity, we want to organize this process really around three ideas or three, we can call them moves. Uh, and the first one's, observation or observe. And that's another way to say this is staying close to what is actually happening or focusing on the present, focusing on the moment. The second part is, the interpret, which is to make sense of what we notice. And then the application is to consider, what all that understanding suggests and informs, our decision-making process on whether we continue something or maybe modify, uh, a particular meeting or an event. Now, it's important to understand that this three-step kind of process isn't linear like it might look like on the slide. It's a process that will allow us to move between all three of those so that we can maybe start at observe. What am I hearing? What am I seeing? What am I, experiencing? And then jump over to that next process, of interpret it, start to make sense of it. Then you go back to observe again because you might have heard something uh, in this process that is, oh, hey, wait a minute, I just heard something now that is a little different. We're going to go through, you'll see how this works as we go through it, but I just wanted to share with you and give you a foundation, if you will, on a very simple process to integrate reflection into the work that we already do. For those that have used reflective practice, you'll know that there are a lot of different processes out there on how to use this, whether it's in your journaling, whether it's in your planning, whether it's in your performance feedback. There's lots of different approaches, lots of different processes, but I think this today will give us a really good feel for one that is simple, easy to remember. And if it's simple and it's easy to remember, the chances are that you will probably integrate it into your practice versus if it's too hard to remember, or too cumbersome of an effort to integrate to all the great work that you do. So we'll use the same process all throughout our reflection today. With that in mind, though, now we're ready to choose that one example I asked you to think about just a little bit ago. Um, you'll see several examples that are up there on the screen, whether it's a team meeting, uh, a transition, program process. What immediately comes to your mind when you think about this start of the new school year that really is deserving of a deep kind of exploration? Don't have to, um, if you can't settle on one, that's okay right now. If there's lots of them, that I just ask you to jot those down. And as we go through this process, maybe we'll be able to narrow the focus. Um, all the this is not obviously a finite list. I think there's infinite a number of possibilities for us as educators and administrators, to think about. Again, there's just some to get the juices flowing. But I'll give you an opportunity to, if you haven't already, open up that reflective guide, if you will. And I think it's probably listed in your reflection somewhere maybe around page 7, your reflection guide, where it's asking you to just, to list down that one familiar part of your work. Uh, you can write down, what comes to mind as you think about that. And I'm going to pause here just for a few seconds for you to record that in your guide. And if you're comfortable, to just list what that might be in the chat. Lesson opening. Good, good, excellent. Again, no requirement to share. Oftentimes, if not 100% of the time reflections are very compartmentalized, or people can consider them private, for obvious reasons. But if you feel comfortable sharing, just please listen to the chat. What comes to your mind when you think about um, that one thing, that one routine as we begin this new year? Student support. I love that. Yeah, warming up is extremely important. It takes me forever to warm up, so I know exactly what you're talking about. Lesson opening. Okay, maybe just a couple more before we continue on. Those are all very excellent. Thank you for sharing. Um, for many of us, perhaps the school year is already underway, and maybe we started this week, or maybe it was last week or the week before. For others, maybe this is just right around the corner, perhaps this upcoming week, or in the next few days. When we think about a strong start to the school year, think about how this routine that came to your mind, or if you're like some that are with us today in the workshop, maybe you have several routines, several things on your mind. You haven't narrowed it down to that one thing yet. Um, but there's three prompts that I want you to think about as those come to your mind. And the first one might be, what have you put in place, to prepare for that routine or that experience, relationships as an example. And then next, address that next prompt about what matters. And, what's the purpose or priority of the routine? And then that third one is what's working. Again, I'll pause here because I want you to have kind of that time of a little distraction where you can give this, very, very detailed focus. Yeah, capture those notes in the reflection guide. And again, if you're comfortable sharing those in the chat, I'll encourage you to do that as well. Oh, I love that one, to get all the team members contributing and participating at a most level of involvement. One of the things that I've seen here in similar workshops with similar population groups is family engagement, and how organizations and teams prioritize family engagement, but they're really putting into that practice, if you will, some very specific best practices and lessons learned when it comes to the preparation piece of it, what they've already put into place. For some of you, that might be, new student orientation, or orientation for family members or parents, to come visit the school or the classroom. And then, the what matters. It's at the end of all that engagement time. What is it that you want to achieve? When you think about purpose, remember it's that we are building towards a common purpose, so that purpose that we've designed for that event or that engagement is a shared purpose, a common purpose with the population groups that are going to be impacted, whether it's family members, whether it's students, whether it's our colleagues, or maybe others in the community. And then that third one, of course, kind of self-explanatory, what's already working and what's not. So I saw one that was like, get all team members contributing. Again, no requirement to list in the chat, just anything that you might be comfortable with. What I put in place is consistency and reinforcement of sharing the college vision at all time. Yeah, thank you. When we think about vision, that's probably one of the most important variables. If you can see it, that will help to, in the clarity and understanding it, right? And when you can see it and you can understand it, then that sets the conditions for you to, think about, all the different ways to implement that vision. At the end of the day, that vision becomes an important part of the culture. Again, the common purpose, so that we all kind of have a common understanding of that vision, whether you're a teacher, a student, an educator, administrator, or family member. Maybe you can't describe it all using words that you see in a vision statement, but you can certainly articulate it in your own words that really capture the essence of what a school vision might be. So up to now, we've been getting ready to build on this reflective practice by thinking about the new year and what immediately comes to our mind. I'm going to ask us to narrow our focus on the setting, because we each have unique settings, and a setting could be the school that we're in. Maybe it's a new school, brand new policies, brand new student population, or maybe it's a school that has been in operation for 20, 25 years. Maybe it's a school that has brand new administrators and teachers, or maybe it's this is a year where you are um, this is your first year as an educator, first year as a teacher, versus maybe this is you're a veteran, a master teacher, and this is your 10th or 15th year. Maybe this is your first year as a school administrator. The setting becomes very, very important. So I'm going to ask us to narrow our reflection to think about that unique setting, in that, every setting has a story. And, when we think about that routine, or we think about those experiences that I asked you to think about earlier, as we launch into a new year, I ask you now to apply that into your own unique setting, and to think about how that setting, maybe will help to explain how or why a routine might look and work the way that it does. What may work in one setting might not work in another setting. What may work in one classroom might not work in another classroom. Um, and then with the setting, it's almost impossible to not it's almost impossible to not talk about setting without talking about culture again, and how culture, if we define it as those values, those beliefs, the language, the behaviors, the traditions, the symbols, that shape our organization. Um, uh, I think that those are all permanent parts of our setting, and unique in so many ways. Um, so I just ask you as you take those experiences, or you take those routines and you're applying it to your unique setting, whether you're a first year teacher, first year administrator, or veteran, if you will, 10, 15-year master teacher, new school, or one that's been in existence for a while, think about the setting, and then try to capture in brief notes, what comes to your mind as you apply those routines. And one example might be new student orientation, right? And you think about the setting and what really is going to help set the conditions to have that be a successful experience for the student. And then, you can go down to number two, number three, and apply that and list your notes. So I'll pause there and give you an opportunity to do that. If you want to share in chat, go ahead. I'm going to try to catch up here with all the great comments that are being put into the chat. Now, when I travel with Dr. Lindley and Dr. Frankum, They really, I think, are incredible examples of how students really are at the center of our work. And so I'm going to ask now, we've taken our experience, we've taken our routines that are, on the top of our mind, or that one, if we haven't narrowed it down, that one we want to focus on, we still have a lot. We've applied it to the setting, but let's apply it now to the people. And, if we truly keep students at the center and people at the heart of everything that we do, then now we have an opportunity, to bring a person or a group that's connected to that experience or that routine into view. And let's put students now at the center. Let's put families at the center. Let's put colleagues, staff, leaders, if you will, and kind of if you haven't narrowed it down, take a stab at trying to narrow it down. But if you haven't, and you still have lots of different routines or experiences, that's okay. But we want to connect them down to those prompts, those questions. Who experiences, supports, or is affected by this routine? I use new student orientation as an example, but it could be a lesson plan. It could be performance review. There's again no finite list here, and so who's impacted by it? And then the experiences. What do we hope the routine helps them experience? What we're really talking about is the quality of that experience, and to enhance the quality of that experience. Maybe not necessarily from our own perspective, but when we put them at the center of that, what do we want students to walk away from with that experience? I talked earlier about how the focus of our time together and the title of this workshop was around clarity, care, and purpose. And if clarity is the having a true sense of understanding what is expected, and then care is feeling valued, right? And the purpose is what is that common purpose that we all have together. That you'll see here in a few slides as we continue the thread here, how that will keep impacting our thinking in this reflective process. But I'm going to pause there so that as you address those questions, you can again put things in the chat, or you can write down there in your reflective guide some of those things that come to mind when you think about those questions. We're going to build upon this, and I'm going to really ask us to narrow our focus even more, to look at the experience, the routine, through the eyes of those that are going to be most impacted by those routines and experiences. So when you think about through their eyes, the goal here is not to speak for someone else. It's really an opportunity for us to think about and to separate what we intend from what we can actually understand. And this is a whole presentation in and of itself when we think about intent versus impact. Because a lot of times as teachers in the classroom, or even outside the classroom when we're engaging with students, or administrators engaging with educators, we carry with us intent, that there's some intent that we have. And I like to say that in any of these engagements or experiences, there are two masters. Now, I'm the master of my intent. I know what it is that I intend, but I don't have any idea what the impact is until I can create the space to reflect and or get feedback from those that are impacted. An example might be that I intend to give Dr. Lindley an update on their first week of school. And I put together an update that has maybe a lot of data, a lot of numbers on student population and other things like that. And I present that to them. But I really don't have any idea that I've achieved my impact unless I've created the space, to reflect on, what is it that Dr. Lindley really is expecting of me? How do I communicate that in a way that integrates, this common purpose? What are we both going to take away from this? And then in all that, how do I capture that feedback? In any given day, we have opportunity to get that feedback both formally and informally. And that's why I said it's really a presentation all by itself or in and of itself for another time, because there's an art and science. And I'd love to maybe give a workshop later on that's just focused on intent and impact. But for the purposes of today, we want to frame intent and impact by thinking about it through this reflective practice, but through the eyes of those that we're really going to impact in these routines and these experiences, and to try to separate to the best that we can, what is it that we intend versus from what we can actually understand. So stay with that same person or group if you narrowed it down to like students or educators or administrators, families, or stay with that same routine. If you haven't again and you got a long list, that's okay. Hopefully we can through the remainder of our time together, or in future reflective practices, you can further narrow that focus and just list there what comes to your mind in your reflective guide, but also in the chat what comes to your mind.
Dr. Bob, I want to ask you a question,
Oh yeah, please.
which might narrow this down a little bit. With every activity that I do, what I mean for this to do, and what do I mean for the students to react or learn or whatever from this? Is that another way to explain it? What is it really
Oh,
that I
certainly. That's
mean to do
certainly,
with this?
yeah, thank you. That's certainly another way to explain it. Uh, to explain it, really, the critical takeaway here is that we're looking at um, others' perspectives, because perspective really matters in the experience in the classroom, that we're trying to design, or maybe the engagement that we're trying to design with families, right? Uh, to think about this in a way that helps to inform what will what what comes to mind if they were sitting next to us and said, for again those pillars that I talked about, clarity and care and purpose. What would really help me to understand what this meeting is all about is if you could uh, perhaps communicate to me what it is you want me to bring to this meeting. If it's family engagement, we're going to spend, an hour doing new family or new student orientation, and we want family members to come. Well, we help them to come prepared by informing them what we encourage them to bring to that session, and that could be not just the thoughts and ideas, but their experiences, maybe from a previous year, if this is a new school, because then that helps us to understand. Okay, parents now are going to expect, or we're going to expect these things from parents, but parents are going to expect us has educators or administrators to um, create the space so we can share openly, these thoughts and ideas and experiences. That's probably a longer answer, but the way that you said it, Dr. Ray, that's another way to um, narrow the focus through their eyes. It's really just embracing and leveraging different perspectives in this, because when we can, if we don't consider the other perspectives, perhaps what we do is create something in a vacuum that might seem like it's really well designed from our own perspective, but from the perspective of students or parents, that whole intent versus impact. My intent was to have something that was very engaging, informative, and of value, but the impact that I found was it was not any of those things. And so it's using that reflective process to capture those things and then adjust that engagement or that experience so that it will be more engaging. And that, again, is just valuing the perspective of others. And the even closer look I'm going to ask you to do is to, what comes to your mind after you thought about this and you've taken a closer look, and now even a little closer look. And for the moment, I just want you to focus on what immediately comes to your mind, and that's what is it that you've heard or that you've seen or you noticed as you think, and turn the magnifying glass even, so it's more powerful, so you can really consider something maybe that was said in a meeting, or uh, equally not more important, we communicate more non-verbally with body language. And so maybe maybe it was eye contact, maybe it was demeanor. When someone is in a meeting like this, um, what is that um, telling you? Perhaps that's taking a closer look in ways maybe sometimes that we don't do because we're just moving at such a fast speed. But there are so many different data points within a setting that will help shed light on these observations and these experiences in a way that will help us to gain clarity and to think about how we're making people feel valued. Uh, I'm going to ask us to quickly just try another lens, and that's, the framework has been the observe, interpret, and understand, and then apply. This other lens is what I talked about. This slide, excuse me, is the lens that I talked about earlier about, having purpose, clarity, and care. And you may have used in your educational journey at some time a multitude of other lenses. I just bring this one up to you because I think when you are looking for different lenses to apply, here are three others that I think are so important to the reflective process that just want you to think about them and do nothing more than just give it some thought right now. Um, but let's shift over toward if you had to pick just one thing of all those things that came to mind right now, what was it that stands out to you, if anything? If you still have a long list of uh, stuff and you haven't narrowed the focus, that's okay. You can list those too, but just take a moment, if you will, and if you had to say to yourself, the one thing I'm going to take away after this workshop to continue to apply reflective practice on in my organization or school is this. And I'll give you an opportunity just to list it there in the chat. I see someone put clarity down and purpose. consistency. Excellent. They're all great ones. Give you a little opportunity to continue that as you think about that one thing. And as you keep doing that, I want to talk a little bit more about that reflection guide and resources. You know, we went through a simple process, at least um, a process that only had 3 steps in terms of reflective practice. Some are much more complicated. Um, this one, while on the surface, you know, 3 steps is a simplistic approach. There are a lot more details in the reflective guide that I encourage you to read about as it pertains to those 3 steps. Take away from that what is useful, what you already use in your organization, maybe modify or adapt those 3 steps to fit your particular setting, your particular role, and you know, visit that throughout the year. And you know, if you're interested in learning more about the different ways that reflective practice, you know, is practically applied in education, there's some further readings, if you will, that are included in that guide. I think several excellent articles in there that would like you to think about. But the value in what we have in the next 5 minutes, I think, really comes out in the discussion and the questions that you ask. And so this time is reserved for you, for any thoughts that you might have, any questions that you might have, or anything that you want to explore together. Dr. Ray really asked an excellent question. I know the gears are always turning when, you know, we're exploring, you know, frameworks, if you will, and principles and practices and lessons learned. So I'll pause there and let folks listen to the chat, any questions or comments they might have. Student talking time. Yeah, I love that. You know, some things to think about here as you're thinking about questions, and maybe it's thinking about, you know, what part of any of this reflective process felt most useful to you, and maybe, you know, where might this kind of reflection fit naturally into the work you already do. um, other questions to think about is, you know, what parts of the reflective process did you find most interesting? And then maybe some other questions, and these are the ones that always capture my attention: is what did I learn about myself in this process, or what did I learn about others or the organization that I served or that I serve? See what you have here. Wisdom application to all aspects of our operations, working smartly. That's excellent. That makes me think about the working smarter and not harder. We only have a few minutes left, so fire away with your questions, please, or any perspectives that you have, and I'll turn it back over, I think, to Dr. Ray and Dr. Jacob for any final comments. Just seeing if we have any
Yeah,
questions
I
that might
think what
jump.
we can do, Dr. Bob, is if Dr. Ray's okay with it, we can finish out with Dr. Ray's words of wisdom, which I always really appreciate and enjoy. And you can go back and watch some of his words of wisdom that we have posted specifically on our YouTube channel. They're just short pieces of information that can help you be a better person, be a better teacher, a better educator, and supporting your students. And after that, those words of wisdom, we can then I'll put the survey in the chat and we can turn the time over back to you, Dr. Bob. As people are filling out the survey, they can listen in, and if they have some burning questions, we can allow them to ask those questions, turn on their camera, ask those questions, or put them in the chat too. We'd love to hear what kind of comments they do have and questions that they do have. So if that's okay with you, Dr. Ray, we can go to the Dr. Ray's words of wisdom, and then I can put the survey in the chat.
Good. I couldn't help but think when Dr. Bob was talking, the intent, what we mean to do, the intention is one thing. But, and I know that he didn't get into it today because it's a pretty broad topic, but sometimes we need to stop and get feedback from whoever or whatever we intend to do. Because if we don't get feedback, we can have the greatest plan in the world and it's not being accepted or evaluated by the group or organization or student we intend to do. So that's one thing I was thinking about. For my words of wisdom today, I've been reading a lot of books. I actually have become a very inveterate reader. I read 2 to 3 books every week now because it's just a great pastime that I enjoy, and I've read on several topics. Last week, I was reading through a book, and a teacher was talking with a particular student, and this particular student had kind of given up. Just, I can't do it. I can't do it. The teacher looked at the student in the eye and said, "Do you understand that you have unlimited potential? Do you understand that you have unlimited potential? The only thing that's holding you back is yourself." And I thought that was an interesting one. So I think, tomorrow or the first day that you open school, you've got a classroom full of students. If you can, look at each student in the eye and say to yourself, this student has potential that he or she doesn't even know yet. This student has unlimited potential. Then your job as a teacher is to help them push beyond their own comfort zone so they can develop that potential. That's the challenge for teachers as we have the start of a new year.
That's wonderful, Dr. Ray. I know that's going to keep me thinking about those things and the importance of what we do for a long time. At this point, we will put in the chat the workshop survey for those that are attending on Zoom or Facebook. They're now posted in there. And please, again, just a reminder, it needs to be filled out in its entirety. If you do not put anything in there, things that you learned, and they need to be specific of what Dr. Bob is talking about, that's the only way that we can confirm that you're in attendance. So please make sure you put some comments in there. And then if anyone has any questions, please raise your hand and we can unmute you. And you're welcome to unmute yourself and ask that question or put a question in the chat because this reflective practice is so important. And many of you probably do it driving home from work every single day or at various different times of the day as you go through the work that you do. Well, thank you, Dr. Bob, for the presentation and for the work that you do and the leadership too. This would be a great workshop to do in person for a couple hours so they can model it and I think it's so important. I know there's a couple different comments in there. Wisdom application to all aspects of our operations and just working smartly. I think Dr. Ray even touched on that too. Just a lot of really good information that we can take home. All right. Some of the answers are coming in. It's good. People are taking some time to write some of their comments. Some answers, Dr. Bob, learn clarity, care, and purpose. One person writes, I learned the importance of starting the school year with clear goals, expectations, routines, and priorities so that both teachers and students know what success looks like. What do you think, Dr. Bob?
Well, I think that whoever made that comment said it much more eloquently than I did, and um, uh, it sounds like they're off to a great start wherever they joined us from. I just want to say thank you for your participation today, and uh, it sounds like you're off to to a great start. Appreciate the feedback.
Yeah, there's other comments coming in too, and just kind of reviewing them. I learned that effective teaching should be intentional and connected to a meaningful purpose, focusing not only on academic achievement, but also on students' growth, confidence, and overall development. I like that. Any final comments or thoughts before we kind of step away? I think people are taking time of putting their responses in, and there's a lot of really good responses that are coming in. Any final words from anyone? Great. Okay. Well, Dr. Ray, if you're okay, we can step away now and let people finish the survey, and we'll process the certificates early next week, usually on Tuesday night, which a lot of people in some of the countries where we work, it could be Wednesday morning. So thank you all so much. And thank you again, Dr. Bob. Appreciate all the work and support that you have to schools and Array Global Accreditation. Everyone have a good weekend, rest of the weekend.